Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blues Focus podcast, where today I'll be previewing the Birmingham game against Wrexham, and I've got two fan channels here with Nathan from the Rob Ryan Red podcast and Tim from Fearless in Devotion. How you doing, guys?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having us on, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to chat to both of you, and especially because of, I guess, all the noise about both teams this season. And Wrexham, so far so good, isn't it? First time back in League One for 20 years. And starting off with you, Nathan, how would you assess the start to the season compared to previous expectations you had? Because before you said top 10 might be a good finish, but now it looks like first place and only 5 games. But yeah, your analysis so far.
Yeah, it was funny that Rob McElhenney actually gave an interview this week where he was very acutely aware of what the fans were saying. Like, let's just try and sneak into the playoffs, and that'll be really good. Very much in the building, I think they believe they can go out and win it all above Birmingham and above Huddersfield and all these other teams. And so far, you'd have to say it's a faultless start, really. It's okay. We drew at Bolton, but that was a very good point, even though I don't think they're as good as people think they are. The home form has just been, Tim will tell you, the home form has been incredible for years now. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but you do constantly have to catch yourself going, oh, we've gone up the level. Everyone kept telling us over the summer League One's going to be a lot harder, and both of us on our channels were telling people that League One, the jump up from League Two is trickier than the jump up from the National League to League Two. But you'd have to say that Wrexham, and I think you can see it now, that the recruitment has been years in advance, that they've really set pieces up, and they're bringing in pieces that'll be better down the line. So this is years of hard work for recruitment in Phil Parkinson and the coaching staff, and you see now a system that is, it doesn't just depend on 11 players. It's a system that works whoever plays in it, and it's really, really effective.
And as Nathan said there, Tim, the fact that you guys have now developed a system, I think that's something that Birmingham fans are looking for with Chris Davis, where we've got that formation in place and it's just the players that kind of slot in there. But with the home form as well, the momentum that you guys have got as well, how important has all of that been to Wrexham's progression up the leagues?
It's been key, because I think we've had the perfect storm of everything. We've had obviously the owners and the razzmatazz that came with it, and it would have been so easy for another 5,000-6,000 fans to suddenly turn up, either get it or don't. It just so happens that we produced a winning product on the pitch consistently, which has kind of like fostered a very special atmosphere. Everybody's like mentioned it so far this season. All the opposition management or players that have come to the racecourse have said that what they've got going on there is very special, and people talk about the fabled old sort of Anfield atmosphere of yesteryear, especially the European nights, and how much of a difference it can make. And you genuinely do get a sense of that now. It sounds a little bit cheesy when you say the 12th man, but it really is. The main group call themselves that, and it just seems to have sort of cascaded out into the other stands. It's nice that we got like a 4-sided ground again, and it just adds everything to it. So the home form has been pivotal to everything. It's been the springboard for the success, without a doubt. And then we were just willing some of that home form to transfer into the away form. And there was kind of a misnomer last season that the away form was like atrocious, whereas realistically it wasn't that bad. It just couldn't match up to the home standards, and you probably find that with a lot of teams, to be honest. You've got to adapt differently to different pitches and different environments, narrow pitches, etc. So it's been massive, and it's been a joy. And I think Nathan's probably said the same thing before, but there will be a time this season, and I'll be amazed if it doesn't, where it does level out. There will be a period of 6 to 8 games where we haven't won. Won't be for the one to try it, but it probably will happen. But the longer the season goes on, the less likely it feels that might be the case. But you always feel that it will come, and it'll be interesting to see the reaction of the fans, the newer fans that have got used to seeing a winning machine basically struggle and falter, and it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is like then.
Yeah, and going back to your point about a 4-side stadium, I think Blues fans can appreciate that, because we've had issues with our ground in recent years where we've had different stands kind of just out of action, really. So as you said, having a full capacity really does help, and it's a full capacity for the game at St Andrews on Monday. And Nathan, what Tim said about, the fans kind of expecting, I guess the general media doesn't necessarily expect Wrexham to get promoted again this season, but with the fan base, and as Tim said about kind of that expectation now of winning, with weighing up, I guess, the likes of Birmingham, who have spent the amount of money that we have, and then Wrexham, who have spent a bit as well, but then not necessarily had the squad that previous teams have had, where they got relegated from the Championship and still got hold of some of them players. What does having that core of players mean to Wrexham? Because a few of the players, in that team have come up from the National League, and a lot of them are kind of cult heroes now, aren't they?
Oh, what I was going to say on the point about the media, I actually think the media are the ones that do think Wrexham will probably get promoted, and those that are following it, and if they're whether they're a new fan or old fan, I think they're just a bit more informed. I think from the outside, people look at it and still think, the Hollywood Reds are chucking cash left and right, and if anything, Birmingham are just a nice foil to sort of actually help us demonstrate how much the gulf is, how where the gulf is in terms of, you drop 20 million casually on Jay Stansfield, and our club record is 500,000 on Ollie Rathbone this summer. So it helps people like me and Tim make that comparison whenever we come on shows like this, or have to do any other media. But yeah, in terms of the core group of players, I was actually chatting to somebody today about Ryan Barnett in particular, who I think is a really good example of somebody who was deemed not good enough when he was at Shrewsbury to play in the Football League, went away, got his head down in the hard yards of the National League. Like, it really, I think Birmingham fans, you lot are looking at League One and thinking, wow, this is, a bit of a nightmare. But if we go straight back, imagine spending, well over a decade in the National League, like putting in the hard yards, and Ryan Barnett put in years with Solihull as a winger in a front three, and came to us. We don't play a front three. There was no spot to be a winger. Got his head down again. Was effective in helping get us into the league. Was effective again in League Two. Maybe not as effective as we thought he would be, but he's been probably one of our best players this year. There's a load of contenders. Tim will talk about Dobson maybe, or someone else, but Barnett's a really good example of someone who's gone away, deemed not good enough by Shrewsbury to play in the league. And he's somebody I can really root for, because I was saying to somebody else, you just never know with someone like that, where there's no idea. I have no idea how good Ryan Barnett could be in the Championship if he ever plays there with us or somebody else. And he's the type of player that I think, because there's so much uncertainty of what level he could really settle at, because I think he's been brilliant at League One this season, he could go all the way with you. And so he's the type of player that I look at and go, those players for me are crucial, and he's getting his flowers now, which is great. But there are others in there, like you say, that have been with us. I mean, Mullin came down. Palmer's had a great impact for us since he's been there. Elliot Lee's cult hero. You don't get nicknamed Pele lightly, so he's been brilliant for us. And there are countless others. I let Tim wax lyrical, because we could be here all night telling us how great our players are.
And moving on to some of the other players, I mean, in the case of Paul Mullin, he's not actually started in the league this season, has he? Yet Wrexham are top of the table. So is that dependency on other people kind of moving around him? And I mean, looking through the squad of players, Wrexham, then listening to an interview earlier this morning with, what's his name? Brunt, who's a Wrexham player who is a Aston Villa fan, I found out today. So he's going to get a hostile reception if fans know about that.
He'll be playing. I'll be amazed if he plays. Yeah, but I'm sure he chucked that in there just to add a bit of fuel to the fire. But yeah, the Mullin thing's, it's not so much as a disaster as we might have thought, because we contended with the same issue this time last year when he suffered a, what was it? It was fractured. It wasn't fractured. It was punctured lung in the preseason game against Man United, and that set him back for a while. But Elliot Lee particularly stepped up during those early couple of months, weighed in with a lot of goals. But if you measure the squad, what we've got now to then, it's miles away. It's really miles away from what we had. And again, we're contending, and we're lucky in the sense that Jack Marriott's got a full preseason with us now. He's hit the ground running, 3 and 5. Palmer's looking really good. I mean, and it doesn't surprise me, because he's in the last year of his deal, and I'll be amazed if he stays, because obviously a lot of his sort of family life is based down south. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a final swan song further down that way. Come here, job done, happy days. But he's looked really good as well. More lean. Not that he was ever fat, but he just looks fitter. I don't know what it is, but he's just been really, really good. And there's been a lot of people saying, why is there not so much love for Palmer? I think there is love. I think there always has been. I think just sometimes, as Nate just alluded to, we've got all these characters that you can. It's almost like you're trying to have affairs with 7 or 8 people. So I love that person, but I love that person more. Like, it's just constant, and it's such a weird thing to have because we never had that. You might be lucky if you had one player. Oh yeah, we all love Louis Moult because the rest of the players were rubbish. Or further back, it was few and far between. It was very slim pickings back then, where it's completely different now. Mullin will be involved on Monday. There's no doubt about it. He proved a point when he came on. Started against Salford the other night, scored a peach of a goal. I was right behind it, and a couple of people saying it took a deflection. I've watched it back so many times. I don't know what happens to that ball, but it's weird. It's some sort of wizardy stuff where he hits it and it goes up, and that's so bizarre. But yeah, what a player. Didn't really get that much service the other night. Very disjointed team, but players and square pegs, round holes all over the shop. But what a time to be in when we've got our living legend, ridiculously prolific goal scorer on the bench. It's just nuts. It really is. It doesn't get. There's always a time in a Wrexham fans' season, more often than not, where it just gets surreal. And even this for me, having Mullin, if you just said it, a couple of months ago, Mullin would be on the bench against Birmingham away, we would all thought you were mental. So to accept the fact that everybody would be happy with that based on current form of the other two, you go with it.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about different players and everything, I'm sure that a lot of League One have been looking at what Birmingham have been doing in the transfer window and kind of going, I've not seen anything like this before. So from the outside looking in, what are your guys' take on Birmingham's transfer window?
Go on, Nick.
Ooh, I'll go for. I mean, you spent a hell of a lot of money, and my reaction is you better win the league, or you better get promoted. I'm not actually. I think you just got to get the top 2. I know some people saying if you don't win the league, it's a failure. If you don't go up, it's one of the biggest failures in recent memory for me, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. To spend the money, and it's not just getting Stansfield, it's blowing Huddersfield out of the water with the package that you offered Alfie May, relocation package that actually made them, choke on their tea. Basically, they couldn't believe how much money that he was being offered. Other Mark Leonard as well, a player that Wrexham were very keen on, and then quickly bulked the financial package that Birmingham were offering. And look, Wrexham fans, every fan that's not a Birmingham fan will have a laugh and a joke. We get it. Money is a key driver in getting you. It accelerates where you want to get to, right? So we wanted to get out of the National League, and that definitely helped us. And look at Stockport; they're also spending a fair amount of cash as well. Peterborough spent more than us this summer. Darren McAnthony admitted that. But Birmingham, I mean, what you've got though, that I think that is my only slight concern is that you've got a lot of new pieces, a new manager, a lot of new players. And what we've got is that cohesiveness. And it's taken years to get that. Like I said, it's kind of, I almost describe it as like a plug and play type system now. I mean, there are better players for our system, don't get me wrong, with Tom O'Connor or somebody. But say you take out Ryan Barnett, who I really like, and you put in Seb Rev, and the performance level doesn't dip like it maybe did a season ago or before that. Like Tim said, it's the change now is the depth just feels unbelievable. Mullin to come off the bench, Stephen Fletcher to come off the bench. Mo Farr is, a project really for us, and a kind of new age profile for us. You've bought a lot of win now players, players from Eredivisie who would have been in like the Conference League and things like that. The only thing is, I think it's a lot of pressure on Chris Davies. It's got to work, and every time you draw, will be like when we were in the National League. Every draw will feel like a bit of a meltdown. Too many draws, fans will start to panic, look at the table, and you get into. It's hard to enjoy, Sam. I'm sure if you're top and you're running away with it, you'll enjoy it. But Tim can speak to it. That National League title race for us was quite difficult to enjoy for a while because every draw, and we didn't draw many, admittedly, but every time you do drop any points, it's like this excruciating feeling because the pressure you're under. So I just say good luck, mate. And except for Monday, I wish you good luck with it because it's not easy.
And do you kind of agree with the points that Nathan's making, Tim? Because I'm sure at St Andrews next week, you're going to feel that expectation in the atmosphere if things don't go to plan straight away, put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. But I think in a weird way, sometimes you have to take 2 steps back for a giant leap forward. And I think that's what Birmingham, the owners, are trying to do, because there's a lot of Blues fans that have been left very beleaguered by the Wayne Rooney saga and the chopping and changes of management and the way it was, and people must have been looking at that. I think, what are they doing? Was it almost doomed to failure like last season because of the way it panned out? So I think you had to build up a lot of goodwill in a short space of time, and the only way of doing that was to splash the cash, was to say, we know we've cocked up, and we know we've cocked up a lot, and there's been sort of managed decline to a certain point. But now here's the here and now. This is what we're going to do. We want to get back to where we were imminently. And it's clear for all to see. Alfie May went and talked about it, didn't he? He said, well, the main objective is to win the thing. So when you've got that kind of pressure coming from within the players, that's going to spread to the rest of the dressing room. And only time will tell if they're up to that pressure. It's as simple as that. We thought Wrexham were up to the pressure the first season, blew it against Grimsby. It was a disaster. But they learned from it. They learned from it, admirably, by some stretch. So it will be interesting, because the key thing for Wrexham now is what Nathan said, that cohesiveness is key, but playing in really, really high pressure environments, which is probably more than we've ever done. Like, forget Wealdstone or Hayes and Yedden away on a Tuesday night. The games against Coventry and Sheffield United, those cup games that have put us in good stead, going to Bolton and going, this is going to be tough, but we'll grit it out. And the longer we gritted it out, the more agitated the home crowd got. That's what you got to do. You either got to get an early goal or be stubborn. It happened at Peterborough. We all, it's well documented that the Peterborough fans thought they were going to give us a good thumping, and it didn't happen. We weren't surprised that it didn't happen, because they are well drilled. They are well drilled, and this plan has been a work in progress over so many years. And now, I genuinely, I feel this is like one of the strongest Wrexham teams I've ever seen in terms of quality across the pitch. But not just that, the belief, every time, the belief that they will go out onto that pitch and win. And it's that, I keep saying it week in, week out, it's that dressing room. If you've got a tight dressing room that see each other pretty much daily, not just training, they go for coffee together, they go and play golf together. Cannon and James McLean are like their best buddies. And McLean's taking Mullin over for boxing lessons in Derry. It's just crazy. It's crazy, but they love it. And when you've got that sort of bond, it can take you quite a long way.
I really feel like that camaraderie in the dressing room is something that's been lacking in Birmingham for many years because of the amount of turbulence we've had. But I'm just hoping that this season in League One can kind of develop those new partnerships and those new bonds as well, and also a winning dressing room. So with everything that's we've said and all the expectations and all that sort of stuff, what is your predictions for the game on Monday? Start with you, Nathan.
I think it'll be really interesting, because it's not necessarily a stylistic clash, but Wrexham by design are set up now to operate without the ball. And I think I haven't seen every team play in the league yet, but I would imagine Wrexham are right up there in their ability to live and play without much of the ball. And that seems to be a stick that people are beating Wrexham with. Tim mentioned Peterborough, but there are others who think you need 65, 70%, and Birmingham want that. The Birmingham want 65, 70%. Their possession stats, I think it was in the high 70s, 79 maybe, against somebody else recently, and that's all well and good, but Peterborough didn't manage a shot on target. Wrexham had about 30% possession. So I think Wrexham will be happy, go to St Andrews, keep it tight for the first 20 minutes, just see how that goes, get through that, and look, Wrexham have got match winners. That's the thing. I still think, I keep saying it every away game, I still think Stephen Fletcher's got a big moment in him soon. I think it comes on. He's so valuable on the day-to-day training pitch. You see it with the way he's coaching Ollie Palmer and the way he's helping these strikers, even your Mullins and Fowles and people like that. I still think he could have a really big moment. So I'm gonna be positive, and I don't want to come on here and be boring and pick a draw or pick a Birmingham win. So I'll go Wrexham to sneak a 1-0 win with Stephen Fletcher to get the winner off the bench.
I tell you what, I think Fletcher scored a couple against us off the bench in recent years, so you might be bang on with that prediction. But how about you, Tim?
Oh, mate, part of me wants to go with the clean sheet aspect, because we're starting to rack them up, but I kind of feel it's going to be quite a high scoring game, and you like to play in the front foot. And I think despite all the us allowing opposition to have the ball, I think it might bite us in the backside slightly on Monday. I would not be hugely worried at all if we came away from a 2-2 draw. And that keeps coming into my head that it's going to be 2 each and it's not going to be a massive disgrace. We'd all probably take it in a weird way. That said, we're just ticking along nicely. And the only thing from our side is that maybe some of your players haven't quite gelled as a full unit just yet. So this feels like a good time to be playing you than later on in the season. So yeah, my heart says a 2-1 win, but my head says a 2-2 draw. So I think I'm going to go with their head. I know, yeah.
I tell you what, I'm sitting on the fence as well with 1-1 draw.
Tim, I was going to say that Sam's, Sam could probably say we've got the best striker or we've got the best midfielder or whatever. I don't know who you want to say, but they definitely haven't got the best goalkeeper. So I know that at least you'll get to watch the best goalkeeper in League One at St Andrews. That's a treat for you, mate, because Tim, big, maybe the biggest fan of Arthur Okonkwo, but he is Sam, you'll see he's special. And at Bolton,
because he was from Arsenal, wasn't he?
Yeah, and at Bolton, he got us the point. He delivered a world-class save in a really tight game, and if it comes down to it, if it isn't this high-scoring affair, ultimately I'm in that away and knowing that we've got the best goalkeeper on the day. So, and we've got the best goalkeeper in the league. So, when you've got that, and we've had over the years, we've obviously had so many different goalkeepers. And with pre-takeover, obviously it was changing all the time, and you just got what you could afford, but. It's really the feeling of knowing you've got a really, really good goalkeeper it's so great because you just think I just back him all the time, even though he'll concede at some point or he concedes 2 against Wickham and so be it. But he's not perfect, but he's so good, mate. He really, really is, and Tim will back me up, I'm sure, on that. He's really, really special, and to have him on a long-term deal after we had him on loan. I know you got Stansfield for 20 million. We just do it a little bit better. Get our loanee on a free, mate.
Yeah, he is good. There's a couple of little moments last season, specifically at Salford, where he dropped a couple of clangers, but he's still young. He's still ridiculously young, and I think Monday will be a real test of who comes out on top as the kind of like mentality monsters, because that will be a horrible atmosphere for our lot. It will be. The fans are gonna have to be loud from our part. It's gonna be a proper battle on and off the pitch and trying to make the most noise and all that sort of stuff. He's so calm. He's definitely got a lot better collecting. There was maybe a little bit of scrutiny whether he would come off his line for certain balls, but you got to back his size. He's enormous. He fills the goal. And the clean sheets don't just appear out of nowhere. It's him and that defensive unit as a collective that chalk them up. And I just think it'll be very, very interesting to see how he gets on. But then he's used to it. He's played in Austria. He's won the Austrian Cup with Sturm Graz, and those atmospheres, I would guess, would be quite partisan. So he will have that under his belt at a still stupidly young age. But I think it's going to be a cracker. I think it'll be really good advert for League One, and it'll be a very interesting barometer of how far both teams can go this season, I think.
I genuinely think it's the most anticipated game of the EFL this weekend. Like I'm really looking forward to it, and for Wrexham to get a result, I think they'll have to channel some of their 1997 from when you guys beat us in the FA Cup 5th round as a second division side. So if you guys have any memories about that, I'm sure the Birmingham fans won't want to hear about it, but maybe some Wrexham fans could do with some reminding about that memorable day for you.
I mean, you have to go, Tim. I don't want to make you feel old, so I'm just going to shut up. But you
were you born then, or were you like 2 then, or something like that?
I was 1 year old, so that's just I was 1.
I
so I wasn't in the
born,
way,
so...
unfortunately. Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't even know how old I was. What was I then? I don't know. It was 79. Yeah, early teens probably. It was ace. It was amazing because it felt a bit odd because we kind of had beat some decent teams on the way in, and then you think, oh well, can we get something like this? But it was a weird one. The first 3 games, because that was the 5th round, I think the first 3 of those matches were all replays. I think Colwyn Bay was a replay. Scunthorpe. We were just doing it the hard way, ultimately. And it was just that was a special cup run, getting to the quarterfinals. Ultimately it was a cock up that knocked us out, and then ultimately Chesterfield went Wrexham got robbed by a dodgy decision against Middlesbrough. So it was an eventful one. It was a good day. And I just remember going there and thinking, this is going to be an interesting one because Trevor Francis has assembled a pretty good team. You know, Anders Limpauer's in there, a lot of experience. Gary Ablett was in there, Barry Horn, Steve Bruce, you know, players with a lot of big game experience. So you kind of thought, wow, maybe this is it. We just go there and enjoy it. And to win it the way we won it, you know, coming from behind, and the sort of it turned with the sending off of Paul Devlin, I think it was, and yeah, 3-1 chaos in the away end. For some bizarre reason, the Daily Post, one of the local papers here, decided to produce tens of thousands of white plastic bowler hats. I don't know why, but they made loads of these white bowler hats. So we look like an extended cast of A Clockwork Orange, which is quite a weird kind of thing to see. But yeah, it was funny. I remember like wearing mine, just put loads of graffiti and stuff on it, and yeah, it was great. Just singing sort of anti-Barry Fry songs. I think he was still knocking around the sort of scene then, and just a great day. Just a great day because, you know, Wrexham have been synonymous with the FA Cup if you kind of take away the whole Hollywood stuff, and that was one of the good FA Cup wins for sure.
And I guess going from 1997 then to 2024, and who could be in attendance for the game? Is there any news on your end about who's going to be attending?
Ooh, I mean, I took that Rob McElhenney tweet as pretty cryptic. That look, Birmingham are filming their documentary of some sort. I saw that there was some cameras going around, so there's clearly some documentary brewing there if that's not already been announced, Sam. And Wrexham obviously do Welcome to Wrexham again. There is absolutely no way in my mind that whether it's over in the States and other games being broadcast on CBS or Paramount, there's no way that Ryan Reynolds, Rob McElhenney, and Tom Brady are not watching it somewhere together. Whether that's at St Andrews, hopefully that's the case. But there's no way. It's too good an opportunity. It's going to happen twice in the season. It's clearly the one that would have been circled for both. You know, one of the main sort of producers, directors of Welcome to Wrexham was on Tim's Fearless podcast and was talking about, you know, the planning that goes into figuring out things they want to do. I don't think they'd have had to have thought too hard about, can we get Tom Brady? And I'm sure the Birmingham documentary lot was saying, can we get Rob and Ryan? So let's hope so. Yeah, it was funny though when Rob was coming over initially. There was a sort of tongue-in-cheek McElhenney curse because he took ages to watch us win, but he's long got over that. And yeah, it's still sort of not necessarily surreal, is maybe too strong a word, but when you do see them there, it is so good because they just live it like you do as a fan. And to see Rob come out this week and talk about how much he is like emotionally invested in the players, like we are as well, and how gutted he was when we had the kind of clear out of some long-standing players this summer, I just thought, it's really cliched that he gets it, but he really does, and so does Ryan Reynolds. You know, he's delivered some really emotional scenes with the players and some incredible speeches, and yeah, so fingers crossed they're there, and also they're much better than Tom Brady. I think that's just a fact, isn't it? I don't know.
Well, we'll see the outcome of that next Monday. But in the meantime, I mean, yeah, check out both these guys' channels. They do amazing work. So stay across that. Thank you for your time, Nathan and Tim. Really appreciate it. And be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe if you like the video. We'll have some vlogs coming out from the game and afterwards. And I'm sure you guys will have your content up as well. So feel free to check that out. And for the meantime, keep right on.